Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday. Let's get back to some form of normality, shall we? How about a little story about things that live inside other things? Why not? Question. Do you think nature is beautiful? Oh, you do you? Well, congratulations, you just described 32-foot tapeworms that feast off their host before making their way out of said host's anus as beautiful. Feel proud of yourself? For every cute animal, there are a whole host of parasites, pun accidental but approved in retrospect, that are unimaginably awful. Here's a rundown of some of those horror shows that you, in your stupidity, thought were pretty. Horsehair worms. Horsehair worms are named for their resemblance to horsehair. If they were named for what they do, they'd have to be named something like suicide worms, or those cricket-killing see you next Tuesdays, which is probably why they went for horsehair worms. These parasites begin life as a 0.01-inch larva emerging from eggs wrapped around water plants. The larvae make their way to the edge of the water, where they attach themselves to grass or other vegetation, at which point they're immediately eaten by crickets. Don't feel bad for them just because they're newborn babies. This is all part of their plan. Now, inside the crickets, the worms begin to bore their way through the wall of their host's gut and into its body cavity, where they can grow up to 2 meters in length, contorting and writhing and digesting their host from the inside. We're still not at the worst part. In order to be able to breed and continue their horrifying legacy, they need to get back to water. Usually crickets stay away from water due to not wanting to drown to death. Fair play to them. I may not agree with most of what they cheep, but they have some excellent opinions on whether or not drowning is a laugh. When they have these parasites, however, their fear of death seems to disappear, replaced with an irresistible urge to seek out water and leap into it, drowning themselves as soon as is feasible. The worms, which you called beautiful not 1 page ago, then emerge from their host in order to get busy with other disgusting monsters. It's a circle of life. So far, the precise mechanism by which the parasite turns its host into a water-seeking zombie is unknown, but we do know they appear to be producing large amounts of neurotransmitters while they are inside the crickets, which are likely involved in the altered behaviour. In other words, they've developed mind-controlling drugs, and we don't have a fucking clue how they work, which I find very comforting. Cymothoa exigua. Wow, that's a name. These bastards are truly bizarre and honestly need to be dealt with before we even think about moving on to cancer. Cymothoa exigua, aka the tongue-eating louse, first enter fish through the gills. I'm not sure what it's like to have gills, no matter what the rumours suggest, but I'd imagine it's pretty uncomfortable to have something wriggle into your body through your breathing flaps. Now, inside the fish, they settle down and attach themselves to the gill arches. At some point, the male parasites, they all start out as men, can either become female or remain male. If they become female, they will make their way into the mouth of the fish to live the life of a tongue. Once they're in the mouth, they cut off the fish's real tongue using their front claws and feast on the blood. Using all the tongue blood, they grow larger, to about the size of a fish's tongue. They attach themselves to the stub with their rear hook-like pteropods, let's call them legs to annoy the shit out of biologists, and become a pseudo-tongue for the rest of their days, acting as the fish's tongue. Like somebody who murders your accountant but then shows up every year to do your tax returns. In return for performing tongue duties, the louse helps itself to the food that the fish eats, causing the fish to lose a bit of weight in the process. Oh, I can hear you say, like the fish sex-crazed person you are, but they haven't bred yet. How do they breed? Calm down, Troy McClure, I'm getting to that part. It's not known for certain where the breeding takes place, but it's definitely within the fish. Either it happens back in the gills, or more likely the male parasites crawl up into the fish's mouth and start banging the tongue. If you imagine this from the fish's perspective, it really is horrifying. First your tongue is gone, and that's weird. Then it's back, and that's even weirder. But you can't feel it, and it's significantly more mobile than you remember. Then suddenly, while you're pondering that, something starts having sex with it. Fly destroyer. Entomorphthora muscae. which somewhat satisfyingly translate as fly destroyer, is a fungus which infects a whole bunch of flies. After a fly has picked up the fungus's spores, it behaves as it normally would for a few days, though those days are now numbered. The fungus is growing inside it, feeding on its innards and taking over its nervous system. On about day 4 or 5, the fly begins to behave oddly. It ceases to fly. At this point, it should really hand back its name before climbing to the top of a nearby object. Once there, it begins shaking violently and spews out some kind of goo, which might be partly fungus and part fly spit, gluing itself in place to the top of the object, essentially making its own gibbet. Then, at dusk, it's always at dusk, the fly extends its wings upwards painstakingly for over 10 minutes before dying. Now the fungus begins to explode out of the fly's abdomen. High up, the pores can spread, hopefully landing on other flies. But if that isn't the case, they have a backup. With the dead fly's wings in an upright position and looking much larger than before, which, if you were a fly, would make you quite randy, male flies have been known to try and have sex with the carcass, getting themselves infected in the process. But at least they won't have to spend many days knowing that they've accidentally done a necrophilia. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers, patrons and members. See you next week. Bye bye.